Last time on Mythbusters, The Search, 10 hopeful hosts competed for the ultimate prize.
Have a nice trip!
In a fast and furious ejector seat shootout, Buster went ballistic, confirming the myth. But a premature ejection...
That's bad.
...saw Sarah eliminated. This week, our 9 remaining contenders test the all-time classic myth.
It worked!
Can you really paint with explosives?
It's for science.
Then they hit the bottle
The day drinking on the job.
to find out if booze boosts creativity.
This will be my masterpiece.
But who has what it takes to be a Mythbuster?
What? And then there were 9. Welcome to your second week of Mythbusters The Search. So you want to see what we have in store for you this week?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, to the untrained eye, behind me may look like pieces of modern art or the toddler got into the finger paints, but they're actually remnants of a myth that the old Mythbusters team never got quite right. The myth is painting with explosives.
Oh, yeah.
The story goes that explosive plus paint equals one instantly painted room. But when the Mythbusters first tried this,
3, 2, 1.
it was a complete brush with failure.
Coverage, total crap.
And 7 years later, despite a DIY Death Star,
Wasn't exactly what I had in mind.
there was paint on the walls, but you wouldn't call it home improvement. So can our next gen give this classic myth a fresh coat of paint?
It's a bit daunting to be testing a myth that Adam and Jamie have already tried. But it's also kind of neat because we get to take what they learned and crank it to the max.
Your challenge is this. Build a rig that houses a pound of C4 and a few gallons of paint. When it explodes, it should provide 360-degree coverage to the 4 walls of a 12-foot by 12-foot room.
Wow.
So for teams this week, we're gonna be splitting you into groups of 3. Blue team, Tamara, Brian, John. Red team, Tracy, Martin, Ben. The rest of you are gonna be green team. In 4 days' time, we're heading down to the bomb range where one of you will become MVP and one of you will be eliminated. I suggest you start with some proof of concept tests. So, go, get to it.
When I first applied to Mythbusters The Search, I was really hoping that we blow something up.
I'm so excited at this point, my hairs are actually standing up on end.
I can't wait to get out there and just paint this room.
All right, green team.
So why teams of 3? Well, the math works out, but more importantly, in small groups, there's nowhere for a potential Mythbuster to hide. We're gonna see everything.
Yep, and 3 teams means triple the brainstorms.
And it just kind of spins and paints outward.
So when it blows, it just has like individual, almost like firing a paintball.
Haul these things up like big curtains.
At this stage, no idea is too out there.
Basically building a giant one-cylinder engine that uses one shot of C4 flavored gasoline.
But whatever they design, it must paint the room without destroying it in the process.
So if we look at these 5 aspects, though,
Team Blue's John, Brian, and Tamara are first out of the blocks.
We haven't built it yet or tested, but I can imagine this is gonna be pretty cool looking.
Production designer John can hardly hide his enthusiasm.
I'm John Lung, and I'm applying to the next Mythbuster. My specialty is taking concepts and immediately creating working prototypes.
This myth is clearly playing to his strengths.
So right now our plan is to use a series of mortars to paint our walls. And then we're gonna attach all these into a larger container to hold our single explosive. And what that's gonna do is help us direct all the energy out so we can shoot the paint out of the mortars exactly where we need to go on all 4 sets of walls.
Back in 2013, the Mythbusters tried a similar system with their Death Star.
You've made a 4-wall Rorschach test.
But 4 jets failed to spread the paint wall to wall.
They did what they were supposed to, but it needs a little work.
Meaning blue team need to ramp it up.
I'm really happy about the design that we have. I think our team really worked well together. And we know exactly what variables we need to look at.
The variables being the mortar design. To ensure the most even spread of paint, they want to dial in on the most efficient muzzle for the job.
Is this going to make it so perhaps it just shoots straight out and doesn't help us spread? If we put it into the trumpet, are we going to get a better, wider coverage? Or if we put it in this curved in one, is it going to actually help us to get some distance?
All right. Which one do you want to do first?
Put it on this wall.
This one?
Yeah.
To test their tubes, they're going to try each different nozzle with 50 grams of black powder and see which spreads the paint best.
All right, we're good. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
A trio of nozzles means a trio of booms.
1.
2.
3.
And when the paint clears, the numbers are in.
Oh, what is this?
70% for the straight tube, 30 for the trumpet, and a patchy 50 for the crimp tube, giving them all the data they need for full scale.
Now we know we can use our 3 different designs to try to get 3 different types of coverage on the wall.
Blue team, what? Sweet.
Meanwhile, red team's Martin, Tracy, and Ben have an out-of-the-box idea.
Can we just coat the screens in paint? So if there's paint actually in the screens, the shockwave can just hit the screen and knock the paint out of it?
It's a really good idea.
So red team plan to use 2 steel plates to sandwich the explosive pressure wave through 4 walls of paint.
We are controlling the energy of our blast so that it goes out right towards the walls and we don't lose paint up or down. We put 4 walls of paint around the blast because we figured we start with 4 walls of paint, we end with 4 walls of paint.
And to achieve a wall of paint, they're using plastic mesh inside a plastic bag. In the Mythbusters' first attempt at painting with explosives,
3, 2, 1.
filling bags with paint alone
I thought it would be a little better than that.
gave a patchy result. So red team think adding mesh could make all the difference. For building Wunderkind Ben,
So I'm gonna make this quick update video, show you what I've been doing.
testing weird stuff like this is exactly why he wants to be a Mythbuster.
There was no way I could pass this opportunity up. It's right up my alley. Science, awesome projects, and weird builds.
Cool.
So this is our little pagoda of death. Basically, we have 3 paint packs on the outside, and we're gonna have 1 more on the front here with our explosive in the middle. So, see if it works. 3, 2, 1. Sounded good.
Didn't look like much.
With just 20% coverage on one wall,
Ladder.
Wow, that did not work.
it's clear the mesh doesn't help spread the paint. So it's goodbye to the grid and cue take 2.
Bags, no mesh. In 3, 2, 1. Hey, we got some flying tape. Let's check it out.
No mesh is not much better, but maybe upscaling from a cherry bomb to C4 will be.
When the C4 goes off on our final design, it's gonna throw such an intense shock wave that it's gonna just shred the plastic and mist the paint. Very unlike what we saw today, where it didn't even blow through the plastic. So I'm still very optimistic for our final test.
It's a risky strategy to ignore their small-scale result.
Not as much paint either, though.
But Red are gambling that a bigger boom will cover the room. Meanwhile,
this is the idea. The paint will spray out of here.
For Jason, Hackett, and Allen on Green Team,
the explosion is just equally distributed around a pole or something in the middle of the room.
So both of you using the explosives directly, I want to use them indirectly.
An interesting dynamic is already emerging. Red team, bunch of different ideas, compromise. Blue team, few different ideas, compromise. Green team, 3 people, 3 different ideas, no compromise.
Coming up, our next gen pay homage at the spiritual home of Mythbusters.
We are good to go.
The Alameda County Bomb Range. As red, blue, and green paint by numbers.
3, 2, 1.
Well, there it is. Let's blow it up.
Since the beginning, the Mythbusters have been testing other ingenious uses for explosives.
Oh, that's pretty.
Like tenderizing meat. Surfing a shockwave. Making diamonds. Juicing a tomato. Or even pancaking a car.
Three, 2, 1.
And now our next-gen wannabes are revisiting another Mythbusters classic, painting with explosives.
Just sort of a ring of...
But Team Green's Jason, Allen, and Hackett won't be painting anything until they all agree on a proof of concept.
3 people, 3 different ideas, no compromise.
I'm willing to take the hard and difficult, as I have a bunch of experience blowing myself up for art.
I'd love to leverage the experience that you both have on this.
The small scale is going to be important so we can choose.
Let's do that. Let's test them. Best one rises to the top, and we all work our asses off on the best one.
Awesome.
Deal.
Fair? Let's get to it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so as a team, they've decided on one thing. And that's to go it alone and find out whose idea is best.
Honestly, if I didn't think my idea was gonna work the best, I wouldn't have had it. I would have agreed with one or the other person.
There we go.
First into the ring is robotics engineer Jason.
My name is Jason Carestis, and we're gonna build an autonomous vehicle.
And while he can mastermind a self-driving ATV, can he make an explosion do his bidding too? The plan is to house the paint in a glass box, with a cylinder of glass in the center for the explosive.
How's this gonna work? There's a lot of glass involved.
We can't pull the formation or what's holding the paint away, but we can shatter it into a million pieces.
All right, well, I'll let you get to testing.
All right, we'll give it a shot. So guys, what do you think of my glass decizer? I think you're gonna shoot glass everywhere.
Exactly. I think you're gonna shoot glass everywhere.
3, 2, 1. That was pretty good.
Interesting.
You know what's interesting? I don't see any glass around the outside.
No, that means that we're breathing in little shards of glass right now.
Paint in glass houses does coat walls. In fact, Jason got a respectable 40% coverage. Next up is electronics whiz kid Alan, who regularly turns movie fantasy
This is so scary. I'm getting used to it, though.
into reality. Although explosives are a little out of his comfort zone.
I've sandwiched the cherry bomb between 2 pieces of steel to focus the force of the explosion out in sort of like a donut shape. On the outside of these 2 steel pieces, I have a styrofoam. So hopefully that offers little to no resistance to the shockwave.
Like Jason, Alan is using materials that the shockwave will disintegrate. But he's adding a semicircle of mesh.
We're gonna see if that kind of aerosolizes the paint at all. It kind of looks like a lighthouse, and that's why it is named the Deathlight 3000.
Deathlight 3000 in 3, 2, 1. Whoa!
Wow.
Check that out!
Oh, wow.
The coverage is much more consistent. It's just a lot better.
This is fantastic.
I'm sorry, but I think that his is a better design.
I think your design is
So
better.
far, I have yet to show off mine, but that's pretty good.
This is super awesome. I'm really happy with this. I mean, if it had been a little bit taller, I'm convinced that we would have painted this entire room.
As predicted, Alan's mesh helped diffuse the paint with 60% coverage. Next up is backyard builder Hackett.
Today, I'm going to show you how to build a device to purify water.
An aficionado of the unorthodox.
It's going to be made from trash, have no moving parts, and not require any electrical power going in.
And today's plan is no different.
Hey, Hackett, what do you got for us?
Okay, I'm making a machine that will harness the power of explosion.
Hackett's innovative idea is to use the explosion as a prime mover.
With explosive. Boom! Explosion goes up and then it locks.
It'll power a complicated array of mortars, levers, and pistons. And it's making his teammates a little uneasy.
This is cool, but realistically, can we do all of this in less than half a day?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
I've been observing Green Team, and I've noticed a pattern. That pattern is Hackett. He's his own man, he's a maverick, but he's hard to work with.
Hackett's clearly a man with a plan. And after an hour of welding, levering, and re-engineering pneumatic cylinders, he's built his unconventional rig.
I like that you guys have all signed up onto this insanity.
And it's positively Rube Goldbergian. A 45-pound weight is attached to a mortar. When the black powder fires, the mortar lifts the arm of the pneumatic cylinder, drawing paint into the chamber. The weight catches the lever, pulls it down, and the cylinder sprays the walls of the room with paint. Simple.
You guys all set?
This is definitely a good amount of dumb.
Yeah.
We dialed it up on the dumb.
Yep.
Perfect.
My prediction is it will work gloriously or fail gloriously. Either way, win-win. Testing of a simple machine for painting a wall in 3, 2, 1.
What?
Of all the things the green team were expecting, that wasn't one of them. The rig certainly threw its weight around.
So did it actually hit where it was supposed to?
Yeah, look, it nailed right on the ring. It bent the hell out of the whole thing, though.
And look, I don't know if that is paint or I think the machine might have just pissed itself out of fear. I think that's just from sheer terror.
I think at least we can say out of all the teams, we have expended the most energy to create the cleanest walls.
Hackett's contraption didn't spray or even squirt. In fact, no paint went anywhere.
That failure was spectacular. I'm okay with that.
That was awesome. You know, it didn't do anything that we wanted it to do. The room was completely unpainted when we finished. But we still shot a 45-pound weight up into the air, pretty high, and it came back down exactly where it took off. And you don't get much cooler than that.
Yep, for a Mythbuster, failure is always an option.
Was Hackett's rig crazy? Yes. Was it brilliant? Maybe. Either way, I know it was fun to watch in a Mythbusters-y way.
This was awesome, but I think it only leaves us with one place to go.
Yes.
We're gonna pursue the other idea, that light.
Yes.
Let's get on it.
Okay.
We had a lot of fun today, but we are still serious about winning this, and my small scale, I think, showed that we can totally cover these walls with paint, and that's what we're going to do.
Coming up.
My prediction is beep.
What do you get when you take 3 teams, 1 myth, and a few pounds of C4?
3, 2,
1.
Mythbusters loves nothing more than a good explosion. But could you use a big boom to paint a room?
All of the teams have completed their small-scale tests with varying degrees of success. Now they only have a short amount of time to finish their full-scale designs, put any finishing touches they want to on them, and then take them out to the bomb range.
Yep, 3 teams means 3 very different devices, all designed to put an explosion to work. And Brian can't wait.
I've been watching Mythbusters since episode 1 at the very beginning, and the explosions have always been something I wanted to get my hands on.
He's planting the seeds of what the blue team like to call the dandelion. It will channel an explosive pressure wave through 36 precisely aimed mortars.
So the dandelion of doom is coming from construction to assembly right now. Everything's cut out and ready to go. We're gonna have straight mortars all the way around. We're gonna put our flared mortar in the middle using the knowledge we got from the small scale tests. Each mortar is gonna be loaded up with 2 loads of paint. That explosion is gonna blow the paint out and hopefully paint all the wall.
Meanwhile, Green is finally working together as a team.
Oh my God, that's like butter.
Green lighting Alan's winning design. The plan is to sandwich the styrofoam, paint, and explosive between 2 steel plates. Then raise it to harness gravity for the lower sections of the wall. And finally, add mesh to atomize the paint.
We need the bomb techs to be able to load the C4 in after the thing is made. We're not going to put it in and weld around it. So we need an access plate. That's what this is right here.
Oh, that's green.
I'm feeling pretty excited because we're going with my idea for our painting rig. Do you see any leaks?
I think it's good.
Solid as a rock. But at the same time, it's making me kind of nervous because if we lose, that's my neck on the line.
Well, it's not just Alan who should be nervous. Red team's tests were distinctly underwhelming.
Instead of learning from this, the red team is just going full scale, assuming that more explosive is gonna work. I don't know if that's gonna pay off for them when they go full scale.
Yep, red team are gambling that a more powerful explosive will give them better coverage. And after driving her team to victory last week,
Goodbye, Buster!
Tracy has come up with a clever twist to get the most out of their paint.
See this? These are sausage casings. As we saw in our small-scale tests, the plastic bags were just too strong. These should burst open right on the explosion and blast paint all over the walls. I mean, they melt in your mouth. They have to break on the walls, right? Voila.
Red team's paint sausages will surround the C4 in a steel structure that expert welder Martin is cooking up.
We're trying to really make these curve, and that allows us to shape that charge and focus that blast straight out the sides. So we're gonna make these cups, and then we're gonna wrap them with expanded metal, and then we're gonna put our little sausages full of paint. It's gonna be basically like a sausage-filled paint burger.
Mmm, delicious.
Now, don't be mistaken. Even though this myth only includes 2 elements, paint and explosives, it's still very tricky to pull off. The old Mythbusters team tried it 3 times and couldn't do it. And I don't know if our teams are going to either. I see a lot of overthinking, a lot of complicated rigs. They have to think outside of the box, sure, but at the end of the day, they need to provide an even coat to the inside of the box. That's what makes this myth so difficult.
With the detonation deadline looming, the pressure is on for all of the teams. And as our candidates weld, paint, and fabricate,
This is the dandelion of doom. When our paint comes out, we're gonna make a really big wish.
it's clear their mantra is to build big or go home.
All right, let's weld.
And after 2 long days,
All right, teams, time is up. Tools down. We're headed to the bomb range.
3 devices are ready to take aim at the myth and spread some paint in the war on walls.
We will name it Beacon of Paint.
Day drinking on the job.
Coming up, our wannabe Mythbusters test if getting buzzed boosts creativity.
This will be my masterpiece.
hopeful hosts are having a blast. Testing if you can paint with explosives.
We have expended the most energy to create the cleanest walls.
But before their weapons of mass decoration detonate,
Oh, no.
it's time to bust out the busts with myth number 2.
Our second myth this week might make a few of you happy because it involves day drinking.
Okay.
Yeah. The myth is alcohol makes you a better artist.
Nice.
By increasing confidence and decreasing inhibitions, the idea is a few drinks really lets those creative juices flow. To test this myth, you'll be sculpting face models of your own faces. To help you guys make these models, we have expert model maker Darren Marshall. You may recognize his work from Star Wars: The Clone Wars and Mars Attacks.
Wow.
Drinking on the job
To science.
To science.
has provided many a memorable Mythbusters moment, proving that sobering up techniques can work. Beer goggles do exist.
She's pretty darn cute.
And beer before liquor does not make you sicker. But can alcohol really make you more creative? To find out, movie model maker and guest judge Darren Marshall dishes the dirt.
Don't be afraid to, just go for it.
With Sculpting 101.
Look how the jaw falls. Don't be precious about it. Just rough it in.
I can tell how hard this is gonna be because it looks so easy when you do it.
To test creativity, we wanted to do something that people probably weren't so familiar with, so sculpting.
You can see it kind of coming really quickly.
But we also wanted them to learn the basics of the tools and the clay that they'd be using, so that's why they're doing this 30-minute training session first.
Don't get hung up on, oh my gosh, the eye's not right.
Do you ever get drunk?
Maybe.
Basics covered, it's clay time.
Everyone set? Excited?
Yeah.
All right, your time starts now.
And this is science. So before the booze, they'll have 45 minutes to sculpt a sober baseline.
I just need to put details into this, and I'm gonna be good to go. I'm halfway there. When I was a kid, I used to play with stop motion, so I would make crappy little clay figures. I never have tried to make my whole head before, but I'm pretty sure I can do it.
I didn't know we were going to be sculpting ourselves. I thought we'd have a model or something. And it's kind of surprisingly weird that I can't really remember what I look like in terms of details. Vaguely know what you look like, but not in a way that's my eyes are exactly this far from my nose and stuff. So I'm gonna have to figure it out.
While some of the art does not imitate life.
Look how thick your neck is.
Yeah, it's a giant neck.
Tracy, what are you going for?
I'm not an artist.
For others, the clay is putty in their hands.
Hey, Martin, this is, I gotta say, it's pretty impressive what you got going on here.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, 10 minutes remaining. 10 minutes left.
With a time lapse to showcase their model behavior. Before you know it, time's up.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tools down, clay out of your hands. Time's up.
And in the blink of an eye, we've got the good, the bad, and the ugly. But how do our next-gen wannabes think they went?
It was way out of my comfort zone. I have never sculpted before. So that was interesting to say the least.
I think it went all right. I was definitely having issues with gravity. My sculpture kept on slumping down and the neck kept getting thicker and the chin kept getting farther away. So as it went on, it started looking a little bit worse and worse. But as far as likeness goes, I think it was all right.
If I had to give my pure artistic opinion, and I'm no art critic, I'd say that John and Martin both did great jobs. I think they took the training to heart and they made something that looks pretty good. On the bottom, I'd have to say that Ben and his goiter neck sculpture wasn't great, and Tracy's birthday cake face. It wasn't a Picasso. At this point, Hackett, Ben, you can leave us. You're done for today. The rest of you, it's time to have a drink for science.
As non-drinkers, Hackett and Ben miss out on the wonder that is the Mythbusters drinks cart.
Remember, you're not gonna be fall down drunk on this. You just wanna be buzzed enough to maintain some level of coordination while you're sculpting. So to that end, you'll drink until you hit that 0.07% blood alcohol content, and you'll have 45 minutes to do your second sculpture. Sound good?
Yes.
Armed with their drink of choice,
That's right, science-y sculpture.
the candidates get buzzed enough for that creative sweet spot. But still below the Californian drunk driving limit of 0.07.
Here goes nothing.
And once they're all blown out,
Yeah!
the clock starts for test 2.
This time I'm starting from the inside out. So it's the brain, the eyes, you got the spinal cord here. I'm gonna build out a skull.
Let's talk about alcohol in the brain. It's pretty well established that having alcohol decreases inhibitions and increases confidence.
And this will be my masterpiece.
But it also messes with executive function in the brain, parts of the brain that deal with focus and planning.
I can't work around him.
So the idea is, if you just get a little buzzed, you won't have to focus on your task at hand, and you kind of just do it.
Yep, supposedly a little alcohol quietens the inner critic and unlocks the artist.
Alcohol is affecting our candidates in very different ways. So Alan and Tamara, their designs, while buzzed, have gotten a lot more out there. That's definitely creative.
Ah, most important part, my T-Rex. Yeah.
Then you have Brian, Tracy, and Jason, who seem a lot more confident with their buzz sculptures. There could be something there too.
I think it's going much better.
I gotta admit, it does look a little bit more like your own face.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything to this myth just yet. I just know it's gonna be very difficult for Darren to actually rank these sculptures.
And with the 45 minutes up,
Alan Jr.
we've got a batch of booze busts. But are they more or less creative? It's up to our guest judge, Darren, to decide.
Before you, 7 buzzed sculptures and 7 sober sculptures. What I want you to do, take these little stickers here and put it along with the sculptures you think are the most creative.
Remember, Darren doesn't know which were done sober and which weren't.
Wow, what a difference. Bang. That's hilarious. That's got to go on that one.
And for those of you wondering why non-drinkers Hackett and Ben sculpted in the control, here's what the contestants didn't know.
This myth is about whether or not booze affects creativity, but it also lets us see something more, that little bit of artistic flair that myth busting takes. So at the end of the day, we'll have everyone's sober sculpture to see if that artistic flair is there. So before you all sober up completely, the results of this myth. Now, Darren ranked all 7 sets of buzzed and sober sculptures, and he found that in 4 sets, the buzzed sculptures were more creative. So this myth is plausible, but only just. Darren also ranked all of your sober sculptures from 1 to 9 purely on artistic merit, and he thought that some of you stood out above the rest.
Martin, technically, you've got some good skills there. You can tell if you carried on, you'd be a good sculptor. And then Jason, really a lot of character in it, the eyes especially.
Unfortunately, that also means some of you were on the bottom for this myth. The skills weren't quite up to the Mythbusters level, but hopefully your painting skills will be, especially painting with explosives. Go get sober. I can smell you from here, it's bad.
Coming up.
I did not think that a pound of C4 was the size of a baseball.
And it's the end of the line for one potential Mythbuster. But who?
The person going home this week is Welcome to a Mythbusters home away from home, the Alameda County Bomb Range. More myths have been tested at this location than anywhere else. And you'll be working with our special guest judge and honorary Mythbuster, Sergeant J.D. Nelson.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be here, but JD, he's a living legend, almost as important as the bomb range itself.
What I think you need is the Mythbusters Concerto in C4.
So, let's get down to business. Behind me, 3 12-foot by 12-foot by 8-foot rooms. Each team will take turns loading their rig into the rooms, placing 2.5 gallons of paint inside, and JD filling those rigs with a pound of C4. Then, boom, we find out if this myth is busted, plausible, or confirmed. And then we find out who's going home. So, green team, you're up first. Let's get to work.
You need that.
Honorary Mythbuster JD has some doubts.
This myth has been tried at least twice before that I know of. And each time had very marginal success. So I'm somewhat skeptical of the result. At the end of the day, it's what they make brushes for.
But perhaps the teams today could change that.
Yes!
For this myth, the proof is in the painting.
This is so cool. I think I can like smell the sulfur in the air.
So how will we know if our next-gen wannabes measure up?
How will we be scoring these tests today? Well, as you can see in our 12-foot by 12-foot by 8-foot rooms, we have subdivided the surface area into 1-foot by 1-foot squares. The team with the highest percent coverage in the rooms will be our winners today. But we're all winners today because we get to see stuff go boom.
To confirm the myth, they're looking for 100% coverage and a room that's still standing after the boom. Something that could be a tall order, even for Green's 6-foot rig.
Yeah! Off to JD now.
You know, from the small scale test, we saw that the bottom half of the room was painted and not the top half, so we raised it up a little bit, hoping that gravity will help us. So we'll see what happens.
Now that the detonator is actually in my hand, I'm kind of freaking out that this is really happening.
So does that mean you're gonna push it?
I call dibs.
Okay.
But before Alan's itchy finger gets the go-ahead, first, predictions.
My prediction is, beep!
Will that thing hold up to an explosion of C4? No, it won't. In its dying grasp, will it paint the walls? Yes, it will. And who could ask for anything better?
All right, green team, large scale, painting with explosives in 3, 2, 1.
Oh! I can see green paint from here.
I can, but not as much as one would like.
It's hard to tell from the outside looking in, but on closer inspection,
All right, okay.
Not as bad as I thought.
So quick estimate here, what kind of coverage do you think you guys are looking at?
99%.
I don't know, this is
I think that's a tad optimistic.
it's safe to say Hackett was expecting more from the C4.
I had expected a big boom resonating from up on the hilltop, see a green mushroom cloud, the whole hill burning, us clutching hands looking into each other's eyes as we died.
I really thought that we were gonna paint this whole room. I mean, painting with explosives is harder than I thought it would be.
Yep, with a disappointing 29% coverage, it's not looking good for the myth. But can Red Team achieve some home improvement?
We'd like to put the C4 in there in the shape of a nice round ball.
Remember, after their sketchy small-scale coverage,
Wow, that did not work.
Martin thought a more powerful explosive was the key to success. But be careful what you wish for.
I'm now a little scared because I did not think that a pound of C4 was the size of a baseball.
I'm really afraid it's just gonna knock down those walls and ruin our chances of winning.
Well, with their sausages locked and loaded, time to find out if they've created a lean, mean painting machine.
Geez, a pound of C4, that's gonna cook our burger.
Heck yeah, no rare meat here.
It's gonna shred it.
Let's just hope it doesn't blow it up.
Oh, it will.
All right, Team Red, large-scale test, flame broiled in 3, 2, 1. Team Red, large-scale test, flame broiled in 3, 2, 1. That was a pretty serious boom.
A pretty serious boom that did some pretty serious damage. But what's the coverage like on the walls that are still standing?
How do you guys think you did?
I think we won it. No?
Well, we won something, that's for sure.
You definitely owned the middle 2 feet of this room.
Red team owned the middle and achieved a coverage of 33%. Minus a couple of walls.
I'm not very happy with the results because our shockwave didn't distribute the paint like we wanted to. But it was spectacular because it blew the walls out. So one goal we accomplished.
So you think this amount of C4 was adequate?
Yeah, a little too much.
Remember, the spirit of the myth is that the room is still standing after it's painted.
Okay, so 2 explosions down and this myth is still looking pretty busted. But whereas both green team and red team had 360-degree paint for their 360-degree shockwave, the blue team is distributing their paint into 36 mortars. And if everything goes according to plan, the dandelion should channel the pressure wave through the mortars, through the paint, and onto the 4 walls. If everything doesn't go according to plan, we run.
It looks like you stole the motor off a dragster.
This baby is home built. Am I confident? Yeah, that's 700 pounds of steel over there, and I think even if it ruptures a little bit, we'll get really good paint coverage out of those mortars.
After seeing the red team's explosion and the green team's explosion, I'm just really hoping that we get good coverage. And if we take out some walls, that we paint them really well before they go down.
We are good to go.
It's the final boom and the final chance for the myth.
Blue team, full scale, dandelion of doom, and 3, 2, 1.
The blast blew the lid right off their dandelion and almost took out the room. Lock, stock, and 36 smoking barrels.
Oh, hey little guy, how you doing? Was that fun? You just had a heck of a ride, but it's for science.
Oh, no, yes.
That's pretty good coverage.
This is what we wanted. Center shot, ignore the edges. Look at that. Yeah. Look at this coverage. What was this?
On closer inspection, it's clear the blue team are experiencing that old Mythbusters Sephoria.
Being in the bunker was fantastic. I've seen hundreds of these explosions on Mythbusters before. Now I got to live it, and it was as great as you would have thought.
So walking in, we saw a lot of damage, but we got really good coverage in the central part where we wanted it, so we're just hoping the judges count the pieces that flew off.
Blue team brought the house down, and Brian has some doubts.
As far as coverage painting all the walls, we definitely went too narrow. We were worried that we were gonna thin out and not get good coverage. We absolutely covered a very small area, so I'm a little disappointed at that.
Like the red team, the blue team just had a pretty successful test, good coverage, but again, look at how much of the room isn't there anymore. Where do they live where it's okay to paint like this? I don't know what it says about the myth that to paint a room with explosives, you have to destroy some of it.
But for the final result, how does blue team's room boom measure up?
All right, now for the results. In terms of percentage coverage, blue team, 24%. Green team, 29% coverage. Red team, 33% coverage. However,
Oh, man.
only green team was able to achieve that level of coverage without totally destroying the room in the process. So, congratulations, green team. That also means that this myth is busted. Adam and Jamie already did it 3 times. We just did it. There is no good way to paint a room with explosives. Now we have to award the coveted Mythbusters MVP trophy. This week, we want to highlight someone that even after an epic small-scale fail, continued to think outside the box, a literal loose cannon with a little bit of that crazy Mythbusters magic. This week's MVP is Hackett.
All right, thank you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about loose cannons.
Good job, dude.
I would say more green team as a whole was MVP. Crazy ideas are cheap and easy and they're everywhere. Making them real, that's the hard part. And that's what the team helped me do.
And now for the bad news. This means that someone other than Hackett is going home. Now this always sucks, but I conferred with JD Nelson, Darren Marshall, and the rest of the Mythbusters crew, and we feel that although this person has legitimately impressive build skills, their ability to communicate is a bit lacking for a Mythbuster. The person going home this week is Ben. Sorry, dude.
You're a smart dude.
Oh, I had a great time. It was really fun to work on that ejector seat. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And this, blowing stuff up, it was just an unreal experience, the whole thing.
For our painters and detonators, although this myth was a blast, it is completely busted. Next time on Mythbusters The Search, it's all hands on deck. Testing the myth that a cardboard boat would float.
John, get in the boat!
And guns blazing to blast a bad guy blind.
Did I hit anything?
Finding out who has what it takes to become a Mythbuster.